Hello.
Hello, Sylvia. How's it going?
Hello, Anthony. Very good, thank you.
Good. So today's date is the 31st of the 7th, 2024.
Beautiful.
We're again interviewing Sylvia, and she'll be going into a sort of a channeling state. And you'll see her going into this channeling state, and we'll just be asking general answering question. We'll have questions and answer session for this one.
Yes,
So,
so they've told us today that they would like to talk to us about love and relationships. So we'll see what comes from there. So I will just connect in to my team. Ke ala manea tuashka, 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 kataka, 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 kea tuashka, 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 kataka, kataka, ke ala manea tushkata. Greetings.
greetings. Welcome.
Welcome.
Um, would you just like to introduce yourself again, please?
We are a group of higher energies affiliated to this one, Sylvia. Um, we come through we are a team of energies who use her as a portal. We are a mixture of ascended masters, star nation beings, inner earth beings, elemental beings, yes, whichever of these energies is called on at any given time.
Brilliant. We had a quick little session in the beginning, just to sort of go over this topic itself, just to sort of get a bit of a guidance on what you'd like to talk about. And you're talking about wanting to talk about love.
Love.
And so now, love and fear are the two primary emotions. Basically, can you elaborate on that as a starting point, say?
Yes, well, love is love when it is present, and lovelessness will breed fear. So we have the state of love and we have the state of lovelessness. And much of the dark seeding of this planet Earth has been seeded actually with lovelessness. Some systems on the planet have been seeded with lovelessness. Individual beings are carrying the energy of a lovelessness. And of course, love is the light. So if we wish to counteract the dark and disperse lovelessness on this planet, the desire is to seed love deep in the heart of every human being, that it may become the central force in their life, and within their own being, any last fragments of lovelessness which have come through trauma, etc., be cleansed and cleared.
Brilliant, thank you. Now, you also explained as love is at the center. Now, we sort of understand love as an emotion, and we all sort of understand it that we have a thinking brain and a heart center. So I'm assuming, being that it's a primary power source, love would be centered around one's heart, because you have more communications with your heart than your brain than majority of people realize. So can you comment maybe on a bit on this a little?
Yes, well, love is very much thought of and called an emotion by humanity, and as such is very easily denigrated. is very easily lessened and weakened and turned into perhaps a little bit of the woo-woo. Because if it is all, unicorns and rainbows and pinkness, the true nature of love, which is an essential life force energy, in its essence, love is really a dynamic aspect of creation. It is common across all galaxies and planetary bodies and races. It indeed is one of the galactic languages. It is the true binding force of unity throughout space or time, because it is indeed, you could say, sitting in the heart of the Creator, but as a manifesting force, it actually is creation itself. So it is part of the Creator and creation, but it is also completely synonymous, and its frequency is vibrating as one of the manifesting qualities of creation. So for the human, it is actually more of a space, an abiding field that one will eventually sink into, arrive at, connect to. Now, the journey to this field may very much be through the heart and examining the wounding that has happened to the heart, which is most human beings experience, and cleansing that wounding, and in many cases cleansing the ancestral right back down the line because of the wounding that is attached to the heart there. And it is true that that this deeper force, sorry, this one must have some water. She is cleansing her liver with all of its byproducts. Yes, so anyway, we are continuing now. So the love is is coming through the portal of the heart, through the engine of the heart, through the vessel of the heart. And indeed, if emotion as a force of creation is frozen in the body, it will affect the heart. It will, in fact, ultimately create dis-ease and then illness within the heart. So as an emotion, it is real that it is an emotion, but we seek to reframe emotion in the context of the word feeling. This one in her teaching, and indeed in the teaching of the Hathors, this is a very strong thread of information coming from this ancient race of beings, the Hathors. They do teach that emotion and feeling are different things. Emotion is the feeling you are having about something, but it tends to be time specific, location specific. So if it's a rainy, cold day, it makes me feel grey. But actually, my feeling may be I'm exhilarated and I'm completely inspired by the rainy, cold day. So feeling is a more expansive container for the idea of emotions living in the body. And as you say, ultimately there are many, hundreds of nuances of what we call emotion. And yes, it has been said that ultimately there is the love and the fear. That camp goes towards love, that camp goes towards fear, that camp is light, that camp is dark. But of course, in this planet of duality, humanity has chosen to explore every shade of feeling. This is one of the great gifts of the human, that in the experience of the earth lifetime, the being gets to truly explore over several lifetimes, usually, many shades of dark and many shades of light. And of course, at this time on the planet, with the ascension journey in place and the souls really needing to jettison the dark in order to reach and rise into the higher crystalline frequencies, at this time we are looking to allow any of the dark strands of feeling that have been trapped in the cells, trapped in the being, to emerge. And so they may be cleared out through sound, through healing processes. This then leaves the body in a greater state of light awareness, light receptivity, higher frequency receptivity, and this in turn anchors the being into this love frequency. So the love frequency moves truly out of its any attachment that it still may have had in the past, through the ego self, into a pure operating system, which will be the operating system of the new world and the higher frequencies of planet Earth.
Interesting. You stated the emotion can create a disease, and you can actually basically then die of a broken heart. But human relationship and the balance between male and females.
Well, this gets back, thank you, to what we were just saying, that in the human world and in the magazines and in the celebrity, etc., love has been sensationalized into, storybook romance, etc. And it is always this idea that was made popular in a movie, "You complete me," for example. This is sadly a false premise if you are seeking love, because each being has their own divine essence and their own divine knowing and their own divine pathway. And it is true that historically, perhaps a century ago, when marriage and partnership was as much a necessity and a functional need as emotional one, meaning you needed two people to run the house, you needed somebody to cook, you needed somebody to build, in all of those pioneering aspects of humanity where teams are required and partnerships are required. It has taken on a more functional, practical sense. But as society has evolved and those needs are not needing to be met, and there is now space for the so-called feminine and masculine roles within any partnership to be shared, to be swapped, to be meted out differently, shall we say. In the last era, it has very much been a time, really one of the first few times on planet Earth for millennia, where the true sacred union of the divine masculine and the divine feminine is possible again. Because we are out of the survival functions, and the human beings are vibrating on a higher frequency. So every human being has within it the divine masculine and the divine feminine, this sacred union, this marriage that has been represented by outer marriages of partnerships, is really just a mirror of what is within the individual. And if the individual, for example, if a female is very strong in her feminine and has been taught to believe that, the male will do the masculine part, then she may have neglected over time any focus on developing her own masculine inner self. Of course, feminism and these positive and negative strands of the feminine moving into her power has shifted this. And the masculine, of course, is, now that women are sort of competent on many levels, the masculine, I gather, has been quite at sea as they realize their masculinity as such, and the masculine function of that, which is the doer, the provider, is not necessarily their only task now. So there is incredible spaciousness for the masculine to explore their own inner feminine. And this is being presented in society and in some aspects of the younger male generation. It's being presented by the idea of fathers being able to be at home parenting children, or the man of the house being as good a cook, if not better, as the female. The man possibly being even more heart-centered and more receptive in his nature than his female partner. So any version of masculine and feminine within us can exist. A woman can have a lot of masculine energy, and I guess if we are not so much, you are not so much looking for the completing of self, but the mirroring and balancing, and just a productive, enjoyable partnership, you will probably be attracted to somebody who has sort of a balancing quotient of this male-female within the self. But this is where love must actually start from the inner marriage. The inner feminine must fall in love with her inner masculine. The inner masculine must fall in love with the inner feminine, because this leads to true and authentic self-regard, self-respect, self-love. And from this point, one's discernment may develop. When you look at the Hollywood stories or read the books, often they are about the human person who has made all the wrong choices and finally they make the right one. There is often a backstory of times when discernment was not present, or when people overrode their instincts to follow an attraction, etc. Infinite storylines that you will recognize. But ultimately, when this discernment comes and a person is at ease in their self-love, when indeed a mirror, a match, a frequency that, as it were, lights up the being appears, then it is indeed very evident. It becomes much more evident that there is truly, that together these frequencies, as it were, vibrate higher than they would on their own. And the most advanced form of this would be what is called, the twin soul connection, where these two often come in. They have a shared mission, but in actual fact, the twin souls can be found within family, within work colleagues. They do not necessarily have to be this male-female marital partnership, but they are still a blending, a partnership of forms. So we are a little all over the show, we are aware, but just suffice to say that when unity is found in what is called the hierogamic union of the sacred divine feminine and the sacred divine masculine within the being, then this will be resonating out in the individual's field, and they are more likely to find a match within that those frequencies.
Very good. Also, the Sylvia does a lot of sound work, and everything's held together with sound frequency and vibrations. And obviously, love is a frequency and a sound as well. So I'll be interested in the correlation with sound work and love and what Sylvia does as her gift.
Yes, well, many years ago, when this one was living and working in Australia, she encountered a healer who told her that her heart note wasn't turned on or whatever. This was in her early days. And she became very intrigued with this. And then over time, as she herself entered into her healing with sound training, and she began to understand the infinite and profound complexities of vibration and frequency within the human body, one of the primary epiphanies and turning points for her in her training was when she began to understand the feminine nature of sound. There is, of course, the feminine and the masculine. The most simple, concrete act of this starts with the origin of all sound, which is breath. So in the breath training, we work with the in-breath, allowing, the out-breath, allowing, and the in-breath ultimately will show any individual how their current level of receptivity within their being is, meaning how are they currently able to receive. The masculine breath is the outgoing, it is the breath of action, it carries sound, it carries sound and action to a point of fruition. It is the completion of the physical act. It is the masculine, the projection of energy into the world. When this completes, there is a pausation, and again the feminine arrives. Again, out of the void comes this divine fuel, which is the in-breath. So again, this sacred union is mirrored in the simplest act of work with sound. And this then is more noticeable. Sylvia works with a system called the 4 elements voice, working with the divine master elemental energies of earth, water, fire, and air. And again, 2 of these elements are masculine and 2 of them are feminine. So again, the dance of vocal play within the human being's life is again noticeable and audible in the activation of sound within the human body. Whether somebody is just working in a limited stream of notes they use in their daily communication, or whether in fact they have quite a wide field of sound. The human being potentially has a 1 to 4 or so octaves range, and before people learn anything about their sound, it can be quite common for people to be sitting in 1 to 1.5 octaves of this, and because they have never learnt about the potential of their being to be expressed through this wide range of sound and frequency, they can sit in a, you could call it a limited personality note. And unfortunately for many humans, this is directly linked to limited behavioral notes also, uh, where where limitation is present within this vocal range. This is often a sign that the being is more likely to be controlled or dominated by the programming and the patterns of the left brain structure. As you said before, we have the mind and the heart, and the mind can be extremely dominant, and it itself, when it is linked to, should we say, negative ego patterns such as those you might call narcissism, or even a simple thing like selfishness or lack of empathy, not that these are simple, they are the life force itself, that if this ego self is holding tight in a limited field of sound, in a limited belief system, in a limited belief system centering around, it's only safe for me to express in this range, only safe for me to express or say these words. I don't want to be perceived as unusual or odd, so I'm going to stay in this zone. All of these eventually for the human do create imprisonment. And within that imprisonment, the heart becomes imprisoned, because the heart knows and seeks freedom. The heart seeks to be able to dance with all its colors. And the right brain, which is where the feminine originates in the human being and has been discovered to very much be at the core of sound work, sound embodiment, comes from this anchored feminine in the body. The other thing the feminine likes is color and movement and music and feeling and being through time, not necessarily in time, and the laterality, not the linear. So these are very different languages in the being. That the masculine, of course, the left brain, as we know, prefers structure. They like to use analysis, logic. Of course, these days with the humans have explored the brain so much, so this we are aware this is still a very generalized picture we are drawing here, but it is still sufficient to acknowledge that these two systems are operating in the body. And to answer your question, yes, they are reflected in the system of sound and the way people activate their voices, their breath, their communication, and indeed the quality and tone of the sounds that they make.
It's interesting. Just a quick touch on the left and right brain. I think, I can't remember exactly, I think females have, was it 60% more connections between the left and right hemisphere. So that's why they're so much better at multitasking. Anyway, you mentioned breath is the origin of all love. The in-breath is receptivity, the feminine, and out-breath is the masculine. Now, I'm also interested in sacred sounds. As an example, the Om sound, and how that sort of affects us, or what the. Can you comment on that, basically?
Primal sounds. These are primal sounds that have been anchored for humanity throughout time. Many of them actually come from off-world traditions, ancient traditions throughout time. The vowel carries within it huge lineage. the vowel, each of what we think of, or what people think of in the English language anyway, as, you know, the 5 vowels. In fact, there are infinite shades of color, which certainly a language such as the Chinese and the inflections here, what is truly capable in terms of the emotional shading of a language is seen in these languages. However, the om is not only a primal sound in itself, but the letters are sacred. So the O represents the open field of sound, a divine channel, a channel which says we draw from source, and we open ourselves and allow source energy to come into our being. And then the om, the M, is a closed sound, and so it seals it. Not only does it seal it, but it vibrates it. If you just put your lips together and feel this tickling sensation between the lips, this is again a frequency multiplier, as well as it being om, a closed sound. So it starts from the universal, all that is, into a point of focus. M carries within it focus, and also it brings it into embodiment. It brings it, as it were, from the divine down into the human. There are subtle differences of teaching around this and different traditions, but that is a basic explanation of this particular sound. But of course, even though many of the so-called religions, as we have said before, have been discolored, or had some of their truth stolen from them, usually within the core of most religions, you will find one or two of these sacred sounds still existent in practice.
Okay.
Yes.
What I find interesting, and I think probably some other people who are maybe not used to these sort of sessions, or this type of channeling that Sylvia does. Sylvia often chants before some of her sessions, and it almost sounds either Native American or Aboriginal sort of trance type chants. Can you sort of elaborate on this a little bit?
Well, each being carries their own lineage of sound, and Sylvia has spent her life opening her channel, as it were, to allow different energetic sounds to travel through her. And when indeed she did start her energetic healing work, she herself was very surprised by the sounds that came through. And yes, sometimes they can sound very, indigenous. Indeed, they do sound at times quite Aboriginal. They can sound quite shamanic. But of course, this one has lived those lives of shaman and Aboriginal, in the sense of Australian Aboriginal teacher. And so these energies are spiritual library or currents which are in her being, and depending on the need of the client, the appropriate sounds from the appropriate tradition will be pulled out. This is how sound works. It is a biofeedback system. So as your ability with sound, your ability tune into the fields and the listening develops. In silence, for example, at the beginning of a session, she will be sending out, just like a bat does, a sonar pulse which says to the body or the energy field of the client, whether it is online or in person, and there will be a response. And that response is what pulls the sound out of Sylvia's vessel. So whatever the human body is needing to heal it, to upgrade it, to cleanse it, to purify it, this is the power of sound as a healing instrument, as a healing tool. It is very pure, and the more the facilitator purifies their channel, the more these sounds from many different traditions are able to activate within the being and become useful and alive in the healing process, if that answers your question.
Yeah, very good. Excellent. We're going through a stage that you have talked about before, where we're tuning more into a crystalline type light bodies in ourselves, and part of this is the auras that have been coming through that we've all sort of seen, and I'm just wondering, is there a sound component to that as well? Because I think sometimes I can sort of hear things happening. I see things visually occasionally, but I'm also hearing a little bit of sort of different high pitched frequencies and things like that. Is that sort of also occurring?
Yes. Sound and light are one. We are sound and light. The human being is sound and light. Creation is sound and light. So one could argue there is always a sound where there is a visual or an image, and as you are receiving frequencies in the higher dimensions, as you are, there will be sound also in the higher dimension associated with that. Of course, the human vessel at this time, the 3D vessel, is not always able to hear these sounds. Similar as the dog has the dog whistle, and there is this apparently frequency app that Sylvia was told about, where the younger ones coming through now can hear frequencies on this app that the older generations cannot. And this is indeed how sound evolves. Each generation will come in with greater aptitude for literally receiving and hearing frequencies which are higher. And part of the ascension journey at this time is that the body of humanity who is on this journey, in this journey as the body moves from carbon to crystalline, the body is needing to awaken a certain amount of this new frequency, because this is what the fifth dimension is. When on the journey through the third, through the fourth to the fifth, these frequencies are constantly getting higher and finer and more divine, you could say. So our ears, our ear training, our sensitivity of the ear, these are all aspects which are literally being tuned. And so in your case, it is not a thing to worry about that you cannot hear it. You will notice probably that even if you aren't quite hearing it, what we are hearing you say, Anthony, is that you are sensing that there is a sound almost. And this indeed is how it works. It's like something in your field knows there is a sound associated with this, even if it may not always have direct access to it. And of course, many of the highly evolved souls who are coming through now, and the younger generations have great capacity to hear very advanced frequency levels in their ears. And people do refer to, of course, the phrase, the music of the spheres, as being that phrase which describes the heavenly music. Many have at time had their version of experiencing this. And this indeed is at a time when the field becomes very expanded and very open and very attuned to all that is truly around us, not just what our the limited aspect of the five senses tells us is in front of us.
Because we're also at a stage where we're seeing sort of technology coming through. As an example, Tesla are making up eye implants, so in time you can not just recover your sight, but see better. And basically in relation to the neural links. And I think we're going to get two different types of humans. Some will be more technology, how do we say, left brain structured, and others will be more right brain, crystalline, spiritual type beings. Is there a comment you can say on that?
Well, this is, of course, this is the AI warfare that is currently happening on planet Earth. It is for souls, this warfare. AI will in time be able to do anything and everything, but the question is, are you being completely controlled by it? Is this the life you choose? To surrender your will, to surrender your daily tasks, your imagination, just for what appears to be a life of ease? Are you willing to go and get a, I don't know, biometric arm or something added to your physical being? This is all fine in the creation sense, what we would call the invention sense, these great inventions that are possible. The question that must always be asked with AI is, who is in control? And if it appears you are being given some development that is just yours and you are completely in control of it, the human being must do the research, and they must find out where is the system actually being controlled from and who holds the power. On the other hand, the human being has the capacity to organically move into complete healing as it undergoes this crystalline evolvement. And indeed, once the human being reaches the fifth dimensional, bodies become somewhat plastic at that point. Not negative plastic in the sense of malleable, healable. It has been said that the soul, as the step into the fifth dimension happens, can actually choose the form of their physicality. That there is such a rewrite possible in these higher dimensions that the illness that was had can disappear, the shape of the body can change. You can choose, as we get closer to our soul essence and representing our soul essence in physical form, the form of that body can be chosen by the evolving soul. Because, of course, once we get up to the sixth and seventh dimensions, there is no third dimensional physicality at this point. The body, races that live in these higher frequencies, they have a more etheric quality to their physicality. Even though they are capable, such as the Pleiadians and the Venusians who are here on planet Earth, they are capable of appearing more physical in the current time. So there will be a blend. There, AI will be definitely a part of the future, such as these amazing experiments of Tesla. But of course, it is about the source energy. What was the intent of the inventor? Was he intending to harness light and work with light for the good of humanity, as indeed we know that this man, this Nikola Tesla, was indeed only that, only working for the light. So his developments, his scientific, his discoveries will ultimately serve humanity. On the other hand, there are those working with a darker agenda, which involve things like slipping chips into the human being in the name of ease, in the name of, get your groceries by having a chip in your arm, etc. Things which are presented to humanity as improvements, but we would ask each individual to truly question in their heart intelligence frequency, not the brain frequency, but the heart intelligence frequency, before committing to any such change in their body. Because if they are listening, the heart will say, that is unnecessary and that will take me away from my divine union and communion, as opposed to towards it.
So during this period of change, I think we've touched on this a little bit before, and it's a little bit off topic, but I'm just sort of interested, the people who have been vaccinated compared to the non-vaccinated, how will that affect, or going through this time period?
There will be healing available in the higher dimensions for those who have experienced adverse effects in the physical being as a result of this process. As can be seen on your planet now, many souls are passing, and there is much passing related, yes, to this process of what can be named injury as related to this process. But also the unvaccinated are also passing. The souls are also choosing to pass at this time. The issue is in some ways a bigger one than just what has happened to the body. It is true that the body has been compromised and its immunity has quite likely been compromised. But if a soul is truly on the soul path, there is, and they have been able to retain connection with their soul and their soul path despite having received these potential toxins, then their soul still has power and control in their life, and they can then be guided to healing technologies. It has been said that in some whom perhaps have received perhaps worse doses, etc., that there has been a lessening of empathy in certain humans, and that they may have even be feeling more divorced perhaps from the soul aspect. So in this case, it becomes important, if you wish to be on the evolving path, just to keep bringing oneself back to center, to keep being as fruitful and healing for the physical body as possible. And those some of those who have received this product and who feel that they have received toxins as a result of it, there is infinite scope out there for them to seek all avenues of healing. There are many respected medical practitioners now offering healing protocols. They are there for the looking, for those who are able to enter into an acknowledgement that this process may have caused them harm and there is something they can be doing for their own assistance. But ultimately, the light will be entering into humanity, the souls who have been destined to move through this ascension journey. And those who feel it in their knowingness that this is their path, they will, even if they may have received some small amount of the toxin, it is feasible that this will be able to be rectified and rebalanced within them.
I think that's fantastic, because I think there are some people even who are spiritual in nature, and they realised that, or even religious. I know I have a lot of friends that were really anti getting the jab, but they had to for other reasons, either job, or they couldn't see loved ones or relatives, or other pressures were put on them in relation to sort of getting it. So I thought that's quite promising.
Yes. Well, this is how society has run, that there are the rules which people are told they must obey from the day they are born. And then these rules, the sense of, take one for the team and I must be a good member of society, becomes internalized. And indeed, it is a little bit like a chip. It is a little bit like an implanted value system. So that if this is fully taken on, it can be very hard for the individual to seek even a different way of looking at, for example, this dilemma when it presented. And if, of course, the dominant forces in society using mainstream media banging at the population, of course, the ability for an individual to think clearly and make decisions for themselves is severely compromised also.
Fantastic. Is there anything else you would like to sort of talk about in relation to on this topic?
I feel we are complete for today. I will see if there is a final message.
Mm-hmm.
It is I, Yeshua. I came to this planet to embody and illustrate to mankind the highest frequencies of activated love within the human form. I was trained in many ancient spiritual traditions. I worked with masters. I came in as a very high vibratory being, particularly prepared for this task, and I trained here in the spiritual lineages in my time before I emerged as a public being. I sought to embody love in every way, in my actions, in my words, in my teachings, in the essence of my energy field, so that indeed those around me could receive healing. This is love incarnate. This is at the core of my teaching and my time on planet Earth. It is talked about in many religions, the second coming of Christ, but as is now widely talked about in spiritual circles and being understood now, that it is not a man in a robe who will be coming, because indeed the Christ is born and lives within every human being. So this essence of love that has been the topic of the conversation today is also humanity's divine birthright. It is the spark of my Father God that I represented, that I brought down into the human form. And I said to you all at that time, yes, I am doing this, but you will be able to do this and more. This is the lineage of the human being. And now that spirituality and science and the best understandings of this are blending in the quantum field, etc., it is indeed being understood that love and prayer, for example, are measurable energies on this planet that create healing. And those of humanity who have chosen this path of healing, of ascension, of transcendence, of returning home to their birthright, the journey is along this path of love. That is in my essence the Christ, which is also you. So there is no leaving of the self to learn these energies through another. It is all about receiving and allowing what is yours by divine right to come in to you and to return home and to activate all the divinely designed DNA strands which will return the human to their sovereign self. So this is my message for you today, beloveds, and you are infinitely loved and held in the bosom, and my partner Mary Magdalene is here. She also has a message for you today. Dear ones, you are love incarnate. Your hearts brim with beauty. If you could only see the beauty of your beings when you are lit up from within with love, with divine intention, with blessings, with self-nurture. These are energies which carry the most exquisite colors and frequencies with them. And we who observe humanity from a distance, from above, from the higher realms, we celebrate this exquisite dance of beauty, grace, pleasure, divine colors that you would not believe, not visible in the 3D, but increasingly visible in the evolving imaginations of each of you. So as we come to you today in our divine union, as partners who existed throughout space and time, a direct model to humanity of the hierogamic union that of course was destroyed in the documenting of the church, which denigrated the divine feminine. But in the true teachings of the Christ, it will be found that sacred marriage, divine love, divine union is embedded within the coming of the Christ and his divine partner, the Magdalene, who is the essence of the divine feminine, which is now returning and taking her place so strongly on this planet alongside her, the divine masculine of her partner. And this is this sacred union which is being birthed in each and every one of you at this time. So we remind you to listen within, to ask within, to pray within, to feel the silence and the stillness, which is so much part of my essence as the Divine Feminine. To sit in the silence and to hear these sounds beyond sound, and know that you are indeed finding a great peace within you that will continue throughout many ages to come. Blessings, dear one. We leave you now. So that was I will come out of channel now. So that was a beautiful message, wasn't it, that they came in? Yeah.
That's fantastic. Well done.
I thought that was beautiful, that as the metaphor of the divine masculine and the feminine, because it's true. This higher frequency modeling is what they were all about, and of course we haven't known that because it was stopped. Never quite made it to the Bible or other teachings, but of course it will be re-emerging now. So it's beautiful.
Yeah, all of that was very powerful, especially that last. Wow. Anyway.
Beautiful. Good. Okay, so we can complete there for today. I will stop recording. Blessings to you for your work, Anthony.
Thank you, Sylvia.